afternoon. My name is Oliver Westmoreland. I am a Level 3 OIC Registered Advisor and Senior Immigration Advisor with GSN Immigration. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon so that you can continue to watch our extremely interesting videos about UK visa and immigration advice. My topic today is the returning residence rule. This is a rather funny subject. Mostly, somebody applies for a visa, they know what they're applying for, they understand everything that's going on. Returning residence rule is a bit different, or it can be a bit different. If you hold settlement under the immigration rules, that means that you can live in the UK forever, as long as you like, until you die, maybe afterwards. You can study, you can work, you can collect state benefits to which you may be entitled. You can do pretty much anything legal. The only thing that could go wrong, I mean, in a bad extreme case, you could have your settlement status revoked, but that doesn't happen to most of us most of the time. There would have to be something strange and serious for that. Mostly everything goes all right. If you hold settlement, this could be settlement under different rules, under the old traditional immigration rules, or under the European free movement, European rules, which have now become part of the British immigration rules. You could hold settled status. All these things are the same. Indefinite leave to remain is the same as settled status. It's all the same. Settlement, live here forever as long as you like. Do what you like, anything legal. You can't necessarily vote in British general elections, but you might be able to if you're a Commonwealth national. You can't stand for Parliament unless you're a Commonwealth national or perhaps an Irish national. Everything is good for most people most of the time. Probably most people who hold settlement will not engage with these rules, but some people will. Now, of course, if you hold settlement, you can leave the UK. It's not so difficult leaving the UK. Sometimes it's difficult getting in, but leaving the UK is quite easy. You just get on the airline and go somewhere. I think that someone's going to take a note of the fact that you're leaving, but you don't have to satisfy any rules to leave the UK. It's easy. If you hold settlement and you stay outside the UK for too long, you can lose your settlement status. Now, probably not everybody knows this. Never really come up in their life, but it's true. You hold settlement, you stay outside the UK for too long, you can lose your settlement status, and that's why immigration lawyers such as us, we would say that someone who holds settlement is under immigration control. They're not completely, totally free. Like a British citizen can leave the UK for 20 years, 30 years and come back and nobody minds. Settlement is different. If you stay outside the UK for too long, you will lose your settlement status by operation of law. This is in the immigration rule. The rule has changed since a few years ago. The whole scheme has become stricter. If you're outside the UK for too long, you lose your settlement status not by virtue of a decision, but by operation of law. It's something automatic and legal. Probably not everybody knows this, not as much as they should. I will tell you the rules, slightly complicated. If you hold settlement under one of the older immigration rules before the EU settlement scheme was invented, in every case, it's 2 years. You can't be outside the UK for more than 2 years if you hold leave under one of these older categories that came into being before the EU settlement scheme. That's one rule, the 2-year rule. If you hold settled status under the EU settlement scheme, now, some people will do now. The EU settlement scheme is at least 5 years old. People can acquire settled status after 5 years, and by my maths, 5 years is gone. Some people now, they should hold settled status. Those people, very lucky, they can spend up to 5 years outside the UK without losing their settled status. Unless you're Swiss, of course, I forgot to mention, the Swiss have always got different rules to everybody else. Now, Switzerland is not part of the EU or the EEA, but everybody knows the Swiss have got similar rules to the other Europeans. For reasons that are too complicated for someone like me to understand, the Swiss have got different rules. It's a 4-year rule. So if you're Swiss or a family member of a Swiss person, you've got a 4-year rule. So a 2-year rule, a 4-year rule, and a 5-year rule. Under the old immigration rules, it's 2 years only. EU settlement scheme, Europeans and family members who might not be European, 5 years. Unless you're Swiss, it's 4 years. That's how the law works, and the law has become a lot. Well, first of all, I would say the law has become stricter. The way that the law is written, the way that the law is operated has become stricter. It would strongly appear to me. I go back a few years, as you can well imagine. I can remember things that happened historically. People got very lenient and flexible treatment. It looks like that's not going to be the case any longer. If you hold a settlement of some sort, you've been outside the UK for a while, you want to come back to the UK, probably you're going to get on a plane. The airlines have a duty to make sure that you've got the right to enter the UK, as far as they can know, but they don't know everything, but as far as they can know. So if you're a non-visa national, they will let you onto the aircraft, hopefully. If you're a visa national with a visa, they will let you onto the aircraft, probably. If you're somebody who holds settlement, probably they might let you onto the aircraft. I don't think they're going to go deeply. I mean, I don't know, this is a guess, but I don't think they're going to go deeply into the immigration rules because maybe they don't know. I'm not sure. Certainly possible. Certainly on historical experience, it's possible. You hold settlements, you can probably or possibly get onto the airline to get back to the UK. You get to the airport in the UK. Let's supposing that you have been outside the UK for too long. You've got a problem. Now, in the old days, I know from my experience, if somebody turned up at border control at an airport or maybe a seaport, they showed their documents to the immigration officer. Immigration officer says, oh dear, you've been outside the UK for too long. You might have lost your settlement status. In fact, it looks to us as though you have. And you think, oh my God, I didn't know. Some people probably don't. I mean, not everybody's an expert on the immigration rules. This happens. I don't know if it happens every day. It happens. You get to the border control. Immigration officer says you have lost your settlement status. You've been outside too long. But in the old days, it happened quite often, I would say. Maybe in a majority of cases, certainly often. Immigration officer would grant you leave as a visitor, and they would say you should contact the Home Office to try and regularise and sort out your status. This happened quite frequently. I saw it a lot. Looking at the Home Office guidance and instructions to its staff, I'm not at all sure this is going to happen. I don't know yet, but I'm not at all sure. It looks to me very, very, very possible. Somebody turns up at the UK border. They think that they can get back in easily because they've got settlement. Immigration officer, if they decide that you don't have settlement, very, very possible you could get detained, put on an aircraft and taken back to wherever you came from. This could really happen. According to the Home Office policies and instructions, which for safety, we should assume that they're correct. You don't want to get into this situation knowingly. I mean, it might happen unknowingly, but you don't want to get into this situation knowingly. If you are outside the UK and you suddenly realise the horrible truth that you stayed outside the UK too long and that you have, according to law, you have lost your settlement status by operation of law, the correct thing to do is to apply to British Diplomatic Post or British UK Visa Centre, apply for returning resident visa. If you get it, you can come back. If you don't, you've got a bit of a problem. This visa application is probably quite easy as things go. You have to, first of all, well, the easy part is you have to state that you intend to return to the UK to live life as a person who has settlement. You know, you're not just coming for a couple of weeks, you're going to live here for maybe forever, years and years and years. Second part, much more difficult. You have to show that you have maintained strong links with the UK. That's the crux of it. If you can't prove that, then I presume that the visa application is going to be unsuccessful and you are a bit stuck. Now, Mr. Shah, this is the basic scheme. I think from the look on your anxious face, I can see you may have some questions.
Yes, thank you so much for your this blog and explaining everything in so much depth. There are lots of people, knowingly or unknowingly, they find themselves in a situation like this, and they need to make their way back home. Um, my questions are basically based on the assumption that um, the viewers are the ones who may have lost their status under these circumstances.
Or they might be approaching the situation where they lose it.
100%, very possible. So, am I correct in assuming, like you mentioned, that if now someone turns up at the airport, Home Office most likely are not going to grant them visitor status at the entry, and they may be removed.
Yeah.
So, it's best they look into this before they travel,
Yes.
make the appropriate application.
Well, of course, some people don't really know. Some people may have been outside too long. They don't know. If you do know, it's a very, very bad advice to just travel to the UK and hope to be admitted, because you might not be.
Sure. And does it also happen that someone may not be allowed to board the plane somehow?
Well, I can see where this question comes from. If the airlines are very clever, now airlines, there are loads of airlines all over the world. I'm sure that some are cleverer than others. A really clever airline, they might have got immigration experts working there. They might be able to assess someone's situation. So, you have lost your settlement status. We're not going to let you onto the plane. Possible. I very much doubt in every airline in every country in the world that it's going to be as professional as far as that. We all know different countries are different, and of course different airlines are different.
Yep, that's correct.
And also, historically, it did happen anyway. People, ex-class of mine, they did arrive at the airport. Obviously, they must have been on an airline, because you can't get there any other way, can you? Obviously, the airline did let them onto the plane.
Wow. Okay.
And even from respectable countries with good systems, so we would think, such as Japan.
Wow. Okay. Mhm. Okay. Now, in a situation where someone has to make this application, returning resident application, is this a visa that needs to be extended, or is this sort of an indefinite leave to enter?
Well, it would be a restoration of your settlement status. It's a sort of one-off. If it's successful, you can resume your existence as a person with settlement.
Okay. Fantastic. So they don't have to worry about the visa extension.
No. It's a one-off thing.
Brilliant. And can, if this may be a very rare thing to happen, but is this doable more than once? If someone gets it restored, leaves again?
I suppose so. I haven't come across this case yet, but I suppose it could happen more than once. The rules, there's nothing in the rules about that, so I suppose so. If it does happen to me, I'll let you know immediately.
Sure, sounds good. And could you please elaborate on, you mentioned about one needs to demonstrate they have ties with the UK. Could you elaborate a bit more about what sort of ties one should be looking at?
Okay, I'll make a rough guess. I mean, I can't give you a closed or exhaustive list because there isn't one, but I suppose family ties would be important.
Mhm.
Owning property in the UK could be important. Having some sort of work commitment still going in the UK, things like that. You don't need a sophisticated lawyer. It's common sense, really. Things that would stick you with the UK, despite the fact that you've been outside. And it's not a closed list. It's not an exhaustive list.
So it could be money in the bank and stuff like that, investment.
Well, money in the bank's a bit fragile. Maybe in investments. I would say more strongly, let's say you've been working for a UK company, even though you're outside, that would look a bit stronger. You could say, for example, I've been working for this UK company. I want to get back to UK to resume my physical presence in the UK. Money in the bank, well, money in the bank moves, doesn't it? Investments, they move. But something to do with a working life perhaps could be a bit stronger.
Great. And could you please tell us how long does it take to get this application processed?
Official time is 3 weeks, but let me say, some of these applications could be complex. I think some of them probably will take longer. Difficult for the entry clearance officer to assess strength of relationship with the UK, strength of links, could take longer in some cases, I strongly imagine.
Okay. And how much does this application cost?
Rough guess, I think it's £610.
637.
Yes, that's what I meant. More accurate guess, 637 English pounds, which you may have to pay in American dollars, probably, don't you?
Maybe. Yes. Yeah. It is possible. Awesome. Thank you so much for today's such a useful vlog. And
My pleasure.
we see you in the next one.
See you next time. Goodbye, everybody.